Every year, millions of people dream about working at Goldman Sachs. Very few actually make it, and even fewer survive long enough to understand what it truly costs. This is your life at every rank inside the most powerful investment bank on earth. Let's start from the very beginning. Hit subscribe, because this is the story Goldman Sachs will never tell you themselves. You are one of the 2.4 million people who applied to Goldman Sachs last year, and only 3,500 got in. That's a 0.15% acceptance rate, harder than getting into Harvard, harder than becoming a Navy SEAL, harder than almost anything else a 22-year-old can attempt on paper. You walk into 200 West Street on your first day knowing that Goldman made $44 billion in revenue last year, that this single building processes more money in one afternoon than most people will earn across 10 lifetimes, and that your starting base salary of $110,000 sounds life-changing until your first all-nighter reminds you that divided across the 100-hour weeks you are about to work, you are earning roughly $21 an hour, less than a licensed plumber in New Jersey. There are 50 people in your analyst class, and history says that fewer than 4 of you will still be at Goldman in 10 years. You do not know that yet. You are still smiling in the lobby, badge freshly printed, suit freshly pressed, completely unaware that the machine you just walked into was not built to make you successful. It was built to find out how much of yourself you are willing to give before you break. And the most dangerous part is that by the time you figure that out, you will already be too deep inside it to simply walk away. You are now a Goldman Sachs vice president, earning a $400,000 base salary, and the first thing nobody prepares you for is that this title means almost nothing inside this building. Because Goldman has over 400 vice presidents walking these same hallways, all competing for the same 2 or 3 managing director spots that may or may not open up in the next 5 years. You are no longer building the slides, you are now the person telling others to rebuild them at midnight, which sounds like progress until you realize you are still in the office at midnight. Goldman's internal data shows that the average VP works 70 to 80 hours a week, down from the 100-hour analyst grind. But your responsibility has multiplied because now you are managing a team, keeping clients happy, closing deals, and quietly making sure your managing director knows your name in the right rooms. Goldman completed over $400 billion worth of merger and acquisition deals last year, and your job is to make sure your piece of that number is large enough to justify your seat at the table. You have money, you have a title, you have a team, but you are still one bad quarter away from being quietly moved aside. The title changed, the pressure did not. It just found a more expensive way to follow you home. So here's the real question. At what point does a salary stop being worth the life you are trading for it, and would you actually know when you have crossed that line? You are now a Goldman Sachs managing director. And the brutal truth is that fewer than 2% of everyone who ever started as an analyst at this firm will ever read that title on their own business card, which means you are sitting inside one of the most statistically rare career achievements in the entire financial world. Your base salary sits at $500,000, but the real number is your bonus, which in a strong year can push your total compensation past $3 million, and Goldman paid out over $15 billion in total compensation to its employees last year, with managing directors and above collecting the largest share of that pool. But here is what that money actually costs. Goldman MDs are personally responsible for bringing in and protecting client relationships that individually generate anywhere from $50 million to $500 million in annual fees, meaning every client who walks out the door is not just a relationship lost. It is a direct threat to your bonus, your team, and your position. Goldman serves over 10,000 corporate and institutional clients globally, and your job is to make sure the ones assigned to you never feel the need to call Morgan Stanley instead. You are no longer doing the work, you are selling the work, protecting the work, and taking the blame when the work goes wrong, which is a completely different kind of exhausting that no salary figure fully compensates for. What nobody warned you about is that at this level, your biggest competition is no longer the person across the table. It is the younger managing director 2 floors down who is hungrier, cheaper, and already having coffee with your best client. You have just been named a Goldman Sachs partner, and you need to understand what that actually means. Goldman has roughly 400 partners out of a global workforce of over 45,000 employees, which means you represent less than 1% of the entire firm. And you are now inside a room so small and so powerful that your name is personally reviewed and approved by the CEO of Goldman Sachs himself during a secretive internal process called the Partner Class Selection that happens only once every 2 years. Your total compensation in a strong year crosses $5 million, and the wealthiest Goldman partners who built their own client empires have walked out of this firm with personal net worths exceeding $200 million. Because being a partner means you are not just earning a salary anymore. You are earning a direct share of Goldman's profits, which hit $8.5 billion in net earnings last year alone. You sit in meetings where single decisions move global markets, where one phone call can determine whether a country gets financing or a corporation survives a crisis, and where your personal relationships with CEOs, presidents, and sovereign wealth fund managers are worth more than any spreadsheet you ever built as an analyst. Goldman partners have gone on to become U.S. Treasury secretaries, World Bank presidents, and prime ministers of entire countries, which tells you that this title is not just a rank inside a bank, it is a lifetime passport into the highest rooms of global power. You have climbed every step of one of the most brutal ladders in the world. So the only question left is this: was the person you had to become to get here someone the 22-year-old version of you would actually be proud of? Goldman Sachs will keep running. New analysts will keep arriving. The machine never stops and never explains its cost. Some will make partner, most will not. But now at least, you know exactly what you are walking into before you ever set foot inside that building. If this opened your eyes, subscribe for more and share it with someone who still thinks Wall Street is just about the money.